Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening to all of you. First of all, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak against terrorism in Kashmir. I am Taslima Akhtar, human rights activist from Indian Kashmir. The Kashmir region, once celebrated for its breathtaking beauty and serene environment, has been ravaged by terrorism for decades. This scourge has claimed countless lives, destroyed families, and ravaged the social fabric of the valley. While various factors have contributed to this complex issue, one stark reality remains: Pakistani's significant role in perpetuating terrorism in Kashmir. In the 1990s, Pakistan initiated clandestine operation in South Kashmir, targeting areas like Sopore, Shopian, and Baramulla. These regions were deliberately chosen to create a hotbed of militancy, which would eventually spread to other parts of the valley. Pakistan's strategy aimed to bleed India through 1,000 cuts, exploiting Kashmir's strategic location and cultural significance. Pakistani's inter-service intelligence (ISI), providing training, funding, and logistical support to various militant groups, including the Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, and Hizbul Mujahideen. These organizations were encouraged to infiltrate Kashmir, spreading terror and destabilizing the region. Pakistan's involvement extended beyond material support, with its military and intelligence agencies actively directing militant operations. Over time, Pakistani's machinations have infected other regions, including Poonch and Rajouri. These once peaceful areas are now plagued by terrorism, causing immense suffering to the local population. The spread of militancy has also led to increased tensions between India and Pakistan, with frequent ceasefire violations along the line of control. Decades of terrorism have devastated Kashmir's social and economic landscape. Countless civilians have lost their lives, and many more have been displaced or injured. The psychological trauma inflicted on Kashmiris, particularly children, is immeasurable. Education and economic development have suffered significantly, perpetuating a cycle of poverty and unrest. The international community has repeatedly condemned terrorism in Kashmir, acknowledging Pakistan's involvement. Various United Nations resolutions and international organizations have urged Pakistan to dismantle terrorist infrastructure and cease support to militant groups. India has taken significant steps to address terrorism in Kashmir, including military operations, intelligence gathering, and community outreach programs. The India government has also implemented economic development initiatives aimed at improving living standards and generating employment. Terrorism in Kashmir is harsh reality perpetuated by Pakistan. Acknowledging that this truth is crucial to resolving the issue. The international community must continue to pressure Pakistan to stop supporting terrorism in Kashmir. Collective action is necessary to promote peace, stability, and prosperity in the region. The world cannot afford to ignore Pakistan's role in Kashmir's terrorism. It is time for the global community to unite against terrorism and ensure that Kashmir regains its former glory as a symbol of peace and serenity. The future of Kashmir depends on our collective willingness to combat terrorism and its perpetrators. Only through concerted efforts can we restore peace and dignity to the people of Kashmir. Thank you for your attention.
Gentlemen and panelists, colleagues, Charles Quays, Secretary General, Mr. Biro Diwara, I thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak here. I'm going to speak about Bangladesh because, as we are aware, there is a very serious situation currently unfolding in Southeast Asia. Just to give you some context, the Polish lawyer Raphael Lemkins in the year 1944, in his landmark book, Axis Rule in Occupied Europe, first coined the term genocide. The term consists of two phrases, the Greek prefix of genos, meaning race or tribe, and the Latin suffix of site, meaning to kill. Obviously, he was referring to the Nazi occupation of Europe and the Holocaust of the Jewish people. Now, if we rewind back 53 years, 1971, during the Bangladesh Liberation War, what was known as East Pakistan at that time, the West Pakistani army, its local collaborators, had been involved in carrying out a systematic and pre-planned, well-organized execution of civilians, including intellectuals, women and children in East Pakistan. A number of professors of Dhaka University were killed in the first few days of the military crackdown. However, most extreme cases of targeted killings of intellectuals occurred during the last few days of the war. There was a clear intent to destroy in whole or part of the national ethnical ratio of different religious groups which lived in relative harmony. If we look carefully at the history of East Pakistan, it was abundantly clear and evident that an imposition of an alien culture, predominantly Punjabi from the West Pakistani side, was the root cause of this conflict. Now, the West Pakistani rulers and the army identified the Bengali culture with the Hindu and the Indian identity. Thus, they thought that the eradication of Hindus would remove such influences from a majority Muslims of East Pakistan and hence cleanse them. Apart from the Hindus, the Buddhist temples, Buddhist monasteries, mosques, and Christian churches were also targeted. If we were now to come to 2024, we know that on the 5th of August, the government of Sheikh Hasina Awami League fell. And since then, now I'm quoting Pratham Alo, this is one of the most leading and credible news agencies inside Bangladesh operating today. They have published a report on the 12th of September saying almost 1,100 houses of minorities and as high as 50 religious sites belonging to Hindus, Buddhists and Christians have been targeted. Now I'll just quote some of the figures because we've got a little constraint for time. Since the attack, there were two very brutal instances, and the first one was the name of the victim was Mrinal Kanti Chatterjee. He was a retired school headmaster. He was returning home on the night of the 5th of August when this tragedy happened. He was surrounded and hacked to death in front of his wife and children. They were also injured in the attack. Now this, we are talking about a very senior retired headmaster who probably even participated in the 1971 Liberation War. I don't know that for sure, but it's highly possible. The other person, Mr. Swapan Kumar Biswas, he was returning home from his daily activities. He was picked up randomly and hacked to death. So the trend which we are seeing now in Bangladesh is a very brutal form of violence where mob justice is being delivered in the name of cleansing the society and the rise of the new dispensation which is there in place. I think I don't have much time left, but so the General Secretary of they have a Hindu, Christian, Buddhist common platform known as the Hindu-Christian Buddhist Oiko Parishad, and its General Secretary Rana Dasgupta has been quoted to say that every time there is a political change in Bangladesh, the minorities bear the brunt of it, saying that they are, responsible for their misery and they only should pay the price for this, uprising. And I would like to also point out, Dr. Shine mentioned about, attacks by well-educated individuals in 2012 in Dhaka, the Holy Artisan Bakery, where 22 foreigners, mostly Italians and other Europeans, were brutally again hacked to death by 5 very highly influential family students who went to private universities, probably educated in Europe. They got radicalized and they executed 22 members of this, European. It was like a cafe, very popular with Europeans in Dhaka. So we can see this trend emerging. And in conclusion, I would just like to say that the United Nations has an important role in supporting member states to implement the United Global Counter-Terrorism Charter and its strategy. Thus, we have to stand in solidarity and provide support to the victims, capacity building assistance, establishing a network, and offering support to the civil society organizations, particularly victims of terrorism, their associates, and encouraging member states to promote, protect, and respect the rights of the victims. I thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Honorable President, our organization urged the United Nations to prioritize the follow-up on the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights reports from 2018 and 19, which addressed grave human rights violation and forcibly divided the former princely state of Jammu and Kashmir, particularly in Azad Jammu and Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan. These reports brought light to critical issues such as excessive use of force, arbitrary detention, and severe restriction on freedom of expression and association. There is deteriorating situation in Rawalakot, Pakistani administered Kashmir, where Islamic radical forces are exerting pressure and issuing fatwas against activists involved in rights movements. These decrees can result in various forms of harassment, physical violence, or even threat to life, particularly when directed as activists challenging the status quo. This development can lead to significant intimidation, fear, and suppression of voices advocating for human rights in the region. Recently, a brave human rights defender, Asma Batol from Hazira Azad Kashmir, shared a poem on social media that drew the attention of extremist group. As a result, she was arrested by the government under blasphemy charges, putting her life in grave danger. Similarly, Asran from Arjabag was arrested and detained, and their families are facing harassment and receiving life threats. Freedom of expression is severely compromised in our region under Pakistan's administration, where religion is weaponized against human rights defender. The erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir is a single political entity. Its unification, stability, prosperity, and restoration of sovereignty are essential to safeguarding the life, liberty, and property of its people. The unilateral alteration of the region status through the dismemberment of the historical state and forced annexation has